Our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the
Nice.
well, welcome. So, Nina, roll call vote? Roll call?
Roll call, Councilmember Boland,
Here.
Councilmember Culleton,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Tryon,
Here.
and Mayor Crowder.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so item 2A, consider waiving first reading of the entire town ordinance 604, and this will be presented by Mark Maddox.
Right. Thank you, Mayor Crowder. Good afternoon, Council. As included on the agenda summary, we are considering adopting an ordinance adding Chapter 1313 to the Paradise Municipal Code relating to undergrounding new utility infrastructure. During the 2018 Camp Fire, evacuation corridors in Paradise were adversely affected by burned utility poles carrying electric and telecommunications lines, which had fallen into the roadway during the evacuation, creating precarious situations for the general public, as well as first responders in their attempt to assist with evacuations. Since the fire, the town has been working towards a long-term goal. We created our community long-term recovery plan. PG&E has announced an effort to underground all facilities town-wide. We've been searching for tools as well to encourage Comcast and AT&T to do the same. We have also identified a need to regulate by policy a future plan for new development to require public right-of-way infrastructure to be underground. So while we have progress in PG&E and undergrounding facilities moving forward, we are still in a couple of different processes with Comcast and AT&T, one of which being a CPUC, California Public Utilities Commission complaint, which is currently in the status of mediation. But outside of that, we have adopted a dig once policy. We looked at creating a Rule 20A district, which has since been put on pause or abandoned until further notice. But again, today we're really excited to report general consensus of positive progress on the overall effort. I believe it's been publicly announced that Comcast has agreed to join the trench, and they are working, we've heard that all the way from the field level up, and that they're working to join PG&E existing trenches that have been completed to date, which is about 50 miles out of the approximately 200 that are town-wide. So about 25% is done to date, and Comcast is looking to get into that trench very quickly over the next calendar year. So bringing forward to today's underground utility ordinance, we were really looking to accomplish two objectives, one of which, again, setting that policy moving forward in a prospective manner, and again, looking at another tool that could be used for identifying a lack of a permitting process in response to the fire for changes that were made to above ground utilities. And if we did come to a point where that standard would need to be applied to an actual permitted process to remain on a pole, on how we would govern that. And so clearly we need a policy that says that we need to go underground moving forward, whether that we can look respectively in the past based on unpermitted work or moving forward with new development. All of this today, however, brings me to a staff recommendation to delay any action for today moving forward. The agenda that you're looking at, or I should say the copy of the ordinance that you're looking at in front of you on paper is different than the one that was published earlier this week or last week. Since that time, we have had a secondary and a third review through our legal team and support system through Dwight Moore that have made significant changes to the ordinance itself, and it came so in a manner that we were unable to identify track changes between the version that was posted and the version that you're looking at right now. Furthermore, the public has not had an opportunity to review this, let alone the utility companies. And so in light of all of the positive progress and the issues relating to the current draft of the ordinance, again, we're recommending no action and delaying this until a further notice. With that said, I am available to answer any questions that you have about this or any other status of undergrounding of utilities in Paradise.
Summarize the differences, please.
Well, from what I can tell, the differences relate to some of the blanks that were on the agenda summary. published, including the amount for the building permit. Dwight, you hand typed the changes between the two. I don't know, we literally got these this morning and late last night. And so Dwight might have a better understanding of the line by line changes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I received a number of changes, revisions to the ordinance about 10 o'clock last night from an outside law firm that's been assisting with the complaint with the California Public Utilities Commission. And they've made some changes, and we still have to try to digest exactly what those changes mean. I think they're all in our favor, but we want to be certain when we introduce this ordinance that we have all of the provisions set forth correctly. And since we haven't had an opportunity to actually compare the previous ordinance with the revised one, it's my recommendation that we delay taking action or introducing the ordinance until we have a clear notion of what those changes are. And for some reason they weren't redlined, and so we would have to try to decipher exactly what has been changed. I don't think it's been changed to the extent that it does not require undergrounding. But it does have some technical information in it that we need to review before we go forward. But it should be ready for the council to introduce on March 9th.
I have another question. I read the ordinance, and it looks like the new version B on page 4 is pretty similar to the old version, and I don't understand what B means. It says certain things are permitted to remain overhead. Can you explain that?
I'll let the engineer explain that.
Oh, thank you, Dwight.
All
right.
About utility improvements to be underground, section 13.13.070.
Yep.
Yes, section B, page 4.
So with that, I had hoped that there would be some further clarifications through the legal reviews that we're following. I concur that both really A and B are already addressed in our previous code changes that we made back in June of 2019 relating to service lateral feeder lines that go between the dwelling units and the transmission lines in the public right-of-way. And so that would underscore my concern with the current form and that we need a little bit more time.
But what does it mean? I'm just asking you what it means, because what it seems to mean to me is that from the street to the house can remain overhead.
No, that's certainly not the intent. That I took it to mean that it was going to mean that it shall be undergrounded, and it would be a redundant code that we already are enforcing.
No, it says that utility main feeder lines supplying electrical energy to residential dwelling units shall be permitted to remain overhead, but a vacant conduit system shall be placed underground. And that confused me because it's after some date in 2021, so it would be new construction. And I know that all the new construction in town is being undergrounded to the house, even if there are utility lines on the street. So this made
Correct.
no sense to me.
I agree and concur and would recommend that that be struck from the proposed ordinance because that's already being accomplished and we don't need conflicting regulations.
Okay, so that just proves that we're not ready today. But I had another question.
Okay.
And that is the utility poles that currently exist in town are temporary and were not permitted.
Correct.
Does this ordinance address that at all?
That's what we're trying to do with item,
It's 13.13 030. All temporary overhead facilities shall be removed and converted to a fully underground installation no later than blank days from the date of completion of the construction. This is the removal date. Upon such removal date and thereafter, temporary overhead facilities which have not been underground and remain are hereby declared a public nuisance and subject to abatement pursuant to the town code.
Excellent.
Yep. And so
Okay.
as far as when it comes to schedule, and we're looking at the facts and looking here to rely on this section moving forward, there's really nothing as we continue to refine this that could occur that would change our argument on how to enforce this. Meaning that the facilities are temporary. They've been temporary this entire time, and we're not going to permit them to be overhead moving forward. And so this time to refine the ordinance, work with the utility companies, advance the mediation a little bit further, will not change the applicability of this section that we're trying to achieve.
Okay. And I assume we're going to put dates in all of these blanks before the 9th of March?
Yes, we can do that. That's part of the discussion as well, and we can come forward with a recommendation. I would initially look to the overall timeline that's been given to us by PG&E of 5 years from the initial commencement of the project. So that's a date we can refine and put in here moving forward.
Okay.
So is the undergrounding on that when the completion of the town is done, or is that undergrounding in sections? In other words, if you complete a road underground, you have so many days to get those poles out, or are we waiting until the whole town is done and then they have to get the poles out? I hope not.
No, I think that's a great comment for feedback and something we can include in the revised ordinance with that language, meaning some sort of carry-on date on when that segment or that street is completed, that the above-ground poles shall be undergrounded within a certain amount of time, rather than just a 2025 completion date townwide.
Good.
We can work on that.
Part of it, I think, has to do, they've removed a power pole in front of, our neighborhood has been undergrounded now, and they pulled the transformers down today, and my neighbor across the street, they removed his pole because he had nothing but PG&E on it. The poles that run down our street have Comcast on them.
Right.
So I know that somehow that's going to have to be coordinated with Comcast so they can remove the poles. And is there are you aware of any time frame or that they have that Comcast will underground so those poles can get out?
Yeah, so I've heard a range of 10 months to a year that Comcast is looking to catch up within 10 months to a year of what has taken PG&E so far to do a much bigger effort, including the trenching, to join and be a part of that. And so the poles would come down, obviously, once AT&T is
That
off that
doesn't
as well.
leave AT&T stays up there.
Right, for now.
Right.
But we're going to continue
get
moving
AT&T
forward.
down.
Again, our overall objective is to continue to bring forward as many tools. I apologize for a portion of the ordinance not being ready for today and a misunderstanding the text, and I will ensure that's corrected moving forward.
And any update on AT&T completing what they should be doing?
From what I have heard is just that I'm trying to figure out what's for public at this point, the ongoing conversation. Yeah, still in mediation, and we have calls set up and really have a renewed confidence of a solution with the CPUC mediation process. It seems like it's designed to work, and I'm confident that it will.
Mark, I have two questions.
Yes.
Is there anywhere in town, maybe through the middle of downtown, that AT&T, that everybody is underground, that there are no poles?
That everybody is underground and there are no poles that post campfire or in general?
In general?
In general, well, downtown, yes. Skyway between Town Hall, actually, all the way north to Billy Road is completely absent of overhead facilities. And that's our vision moving forward
Okay.
for the entire town.
But my second question, on this ordinance, once it's all refined and we take out all this bogus language in here that allows them to keep a pole up, does this apply to the entire jurisdiction of Paradise, the entire town?
Correct, yes,
Private roads included?
Yes.
Good.
yes.
That's the main thing.
Okay.
I just have a quick clarification. So even with existing homes, our intention is that they will also be underground.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, Mayor Crowder, are we looking to table this? Do you want a motion to table?
Their staff's recommending no action be taken on this until we straighten that out, and I kind of agree with that. And so I guess we just need a consensus from council that we bring it back.
Do we need a motion to table, is what I'm asking?
I don't think so.
I don't think we need to.
No, you don't need a motion to table it, but a direction as to when it should be returned would be helpful.
Well,
Why?
there is there even a need to return this until we know what AT&T is going to do? Or what?
Yes, there is a need to return it. It's independent of AT&T and PG&E and Comcast.
So why not
Okay.
table it to a date
So-
certain, either the March 9th or another special meeting?
So our next council meeting would work for that, Dwight?
Yeah, it should be ready within the next day or two, so March 9th would be an appropriate date to return with it for introduction.
So then we can make a motion to bring it back to our March 9th meeting,
Yes.
okay?
So table it. That's a motion to table, right?
Well,
I don't think, I think it's just a motion to bring it back.
I think directions. I don't think, no action needs to
Yeah,
be
but
taken.
you put something on the agenda, an action item on the agenda. We schedule a public meet, a special meeting. Everybody's watching. And so to just, I mean, this is an official thing we were going to take an action on. So why not table it or whatever, or adjourn it to a specific time? And, okay, let's just give direction to bring it back. Why not just
You
set it
can-
for the next meeting?
You can take action. I just want to let you guys know kind of where we're at with the PUC and kind of the direction that we're looking at is that we are moving in the right direction. And we obviously want to have, and Dwight's talked about, a police powers to enforce this motion moving forward. But we also are looking to invite these players to come to the table on their own too. I think that is by far the best solution to all of this, is to not force them to come to the table, to invite them to come to the table. And I think that we're very close. So in March, and if we were to bring this back in March, I think we will have some more information for you at that point in time, some more information from the PUC on moving this forward to make sure that we're not taking action to halt any movement forward. And I know it's been a long time. I know it's been a long time. I do feel from my being in part of the meetings that we are close. Comcast is there. I believe from my talking with the PUC and being in these meetings, the PUC wants this to move forward. I think Mayor Crowder understands that too. So just if we can be patient with this, but also keeping the pressure on them, I think is the right motion moving forward.
Okay, here's the question, though. From what I'm hearing from our attorneys and from Mark and everybody, this is something, an ordinance that we need to have, period. No matter what happens at the PUC. I mean, this is something we need to have. So I hear what you're saying. So
Correct.
what happens, let's say, because here's my deal, man. What happens if, okay, gee, everything's moving the right direction? We've heard that about other things too, the tree program and what have you. And then March 9th or whatever time we bring this back, whatever we say that, we still don't, there's still no deal. There's still no agreement. Some point we need to have, I mean, this, even if we
not
enact this on
disagreeing with
March
that.
9th, this won't go into effect till 30 days after that.
You are
So you still have plenty of time to,
Totally. I'm just saying by March 9th, we're hoping to have some more information for you to make an informed decision on that PUC.
well, and then if you had to, if we set this for specifically, table this to the March 9th meeting, legal has the time to do all that and everybody has a chance to look at it, and we all do too. And then if everything goes haywire, on March 9th, you can just pull it from the agenda, right, until it's ready to go.
And
That is a possibility. So,
And
yeah.
I think that's what I had said is let's just make a motion to
Yep.
put it to the March 9th meeting, and that we don't need a vote, we just need a motion.
Well, a motion
No,
requires a
it's
vote. I'll move that we bring this back March 9th.
Isn't that what a tabling something is?
It's exactly what it is.
Aren't you, when you table something, an item, you table it to a date, I mean, we've adjourned meetings to a date certain. I just,
I'll
I
second
understand what
that.
you're saying.
I need a second.
I'll second
Somebody
that.
second it.
I'll second it. Get it done.
Motion by Jones, by Boland, to bring back this proposed ordinance to March 9th. Roll call vote. Boland?
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Tryon?
Aye.
And Mayor Crowder.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dwight.
So item 2B, consider waiving the reading the entire Town of Paradise Urgency Ordinance number 605, presented by Katie Simmons.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Katie Simmons presenting on behalf of myself and our town attorneys who are here to answer questions. So we are proposing some recommended changes to the abatement protocol in the urgency ordinance, and this is to accomplish a couple of key things. One, to give the appropriate and maximum due process to property owners. Two, to establish the most conservative and legally defensible approach to protect the town's interests. And three, to provide consistency in abatement procedures between the town and county for the benefit of utilizing shared services provided by agencies supporting hazardous tree removal. So as of this date, all enrollment deadlines in the programs have passed. The inspection deadline has passed in the private program. We are left with essentially two categories of properties that are out of compliance with the hazard tree removal ordinance. One are the incomplete properties in the private program. We have 102 as of today. This is 3% of the total. Over 3,500 properties have been cleared in this program. And what we're essentially doing to get this number down is we are making contact with all of these property owners and scheduling them for a second inspection or a seventh in some cases, if they have confirmed removal of trees, the same number of trees that were found in the last inspection on their property. We are, upon additional inspections, able to clear some of these properties, so this number is clicking down every day. On the unenrolled side, we currently have 820 properties. We are conducting with the town's arborists final roadside inspections on these properties, and at this time, as of about a week into that process, we are clearing about 10 to 15% of those properties. So these are properties where property owners have cleared their own trees without any enrollment, without any arborist clearance, without the town's arborist clearance. And so we're able to remove properties. So again, this number is ticking down every day. We're also circulating internally an abatement risk property owner list so that we can all reach out to friends, family, neighbors who we know to explain the burdensome expense of abatement. And so we can encourage them to work with our tree advocates to sign an ROE, which we would then advocate with the state to accept, or to have their arborist certify their property clear, or to remove their trees if they haven't done that yet. So I just wanted to give an overview of where we are with the numbers. In terms of the process for abatement, we are working very closely with the county and the town attorneys, and I understand our town attorneys have been having meetings with the courts as well, so that we're looking at court capacity to deal with the number of properties we have in abatement. As I mentioned, the town is tracking about 920, the county has about 130. So one of the things I definitely want to emphasize with this presentation, and then we're here to answer questions, is that abatement is going to be a multi-step process, particularly for the unenrolled properties, because it will require a couple of mailings, preparing declarations for the inspection warrants, getting the inspection warrants, getting on properties, preparing case files, all of that. So abatement is going to be a very lengthy, burdensome process. To the extent that we can all work together to reduce that number to the extent possible, I think will be for the benefit of the property owners and for the benefit of the town. So on that note, I'm happy to answer any questions on those numbers or processes, or of course, I'm sure Mark is happy to answer any questions on the abatement procedures.
So this is basically aligning what we're doing with the county, correct?
That's correct.
And I think I asked this once before, but I'll ask again. Is there I mean, a lot of times you can go into court and get some type of a, wow, I'm losing my words. Some type of a ruling that will allow you to take trees if they fit certain criteria and a certain evaluation has been done. Have we looked into doing that, and do we have any more information on that?
You might be referring to summary abatement.
want to just jump
Yes,
in a little
sure,
bit?
exactly. That was the word.
That is the, what you described is what we'll be doing. There are court processes. We have to apply to the court to get inspection warrants and inspect these properties because the roadside assessments are not sufficient to give people hearings and ask the court to take down their trees. When that's completed, we've comported our process with the county process to notice hearings and tell people that there is a hearing scheduled on your property, because at this point in time, we have inspected the property, we have a qualified arborist report that says trees X, Y, or X, Y, and Z are no good. Here's a picture of them, there's a mark on them. An objective person can say that we know where they're at to send a logger on there to take them down. When we have that information, we'll be sending out notices that tell the dear property owner, we're scheduling a hearing. The hearing is in 15 days. Be there or there's going to be a default, okay? The property owner will or will not appear. Even if the property owner does not appear, there will be a hearing. We're going to need to present evidence. The hearing officer is going to need to issue a decision within 5 days of the hearing. That decision is going to need to accompany a whole series of court filings. There's a stack of court filings for the inspection procedure, and there's a stack of court filings for the abatement procedure. The decision, the written decision of our hearing officer is going to we need to present to the court and tell the court, hey, we've gone through the process, we've given people due process, we've notified them of this process. They either did or didn't appear. Here's the decision of the hearing officer. We want the court to bless us and issue this abatement order that authorizes us to go on the property and cut these identified trees down. It is going to be something that none of us want, but none of us can help. It is going to be a lengthy, complicated process, necessarily, with a lot of interdependent goings-on. When abatement orders are issued, under the law, you have X period of time to get the abatement completed. We're going to need some flexibility, and we may need to ask the court for extenuating circumstances about how long we have to implement this, because we're dealing with unknowns. We don't know how many qualified tree loggers there are. We've got the county doing over 100 properties. The county's got 130 properties they're doing. We've got apparently at least a minimum of 800 plus, even with what we hope to be the diminishing number of ones that we find that need work. We had a meeting scheduled with the presiding court officer this morning. It got postponed until this Friday at, I think, 10 o'clock. But we need to coordinate with the court and let them know that this avalanche of filings is coming, and ask them, how many filings can you handle? Here's what we hope to do. Can you accommodate us? How many will you hear? How many will you not hear? How long do you envision, these kinds of things? And until we get into a sequence of filings and see how they're coming out the other side, we don't know how these hundreds of proceedings are going to go. Frankly, we haven't even seen the qualified arborist reports yet, because they're yet to be issued. Speaking with county council and coordinating these things, we're estimating it's basically a 2-month process. And I'm going to put 2 weeks on top of that. I'm going to say 2.5 months, because it always takes longer to get a batch through. And that's from the inspection warrant process through ideally the issuance of a abatement order allowing us to take the trees. Dwight, were you trying to add something or no? No.
No,
Okay.
I wasn't going to add anything, but it is a long process, because if we make the hearings mandatory,
Yeah,
that's going to strike down everything.
I'll get to that. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't leaving you out. I heard noise, and I wasn't sure if you were wanting to interject. So this process that we now adopt by this order is a different process from the way it was set up. We had it set up to say, hey, here's a notice We're cutting your trees down unless you ask for a hearing. It was different. It was more expedited. It, it was a legal process. It was more subject to challenge by disgruntled owners and the like. But there are necessarily some things, some moving parts here that we don't know. We're going to be giving notices to people. And as we all know, we've struggled with, by the time we give notice to Joe, Joe may have sold his property to Susan. We just don't know some of the things that are going to come up. So we anticipate it's going to last at least into, probably well, frankly, into next year, the entire process. I understand the shaking heads, but these are the realities. I'm the messenger. What else? We're going to have to see how it's going. We'll, of course, try and improve the situation as we go, expedite where we can, figure out where we're getting pushback, where the pushback comes. Hopefully not a lot of pushback. Maybe the court puts more officers on them for more hearings. We need to hire hearing officers. We're going to need additional counsel to handle a lot of these proceedings. There's a lot of moving parts to line up. So I think that's a fair overview. I apologize if I missed something, but I'm open for questions, and I'll answer any questions I can. Do you know of anything I've missed that stuck out?
So I mean, we got to do this, and I'm with you. I'm just envisioning, and I don't know if we've thought this part through. We're gonna have this abatement on these properties, in which there are still going to be properties in which we're not getting the back 40 trees yet.
I don't know what you mean by that. When we
Well,
go on a
there's gonna be
property,
the trees, there's going to be the trees that aren't in that first program of hazardous trees that could hit the road.
That's correct.
So you got the
That's
back
correct.
trees. You got the
The
back trees.
hazard trees do not include those back 40
Yes.
40 trees.
So you're going to have this abatement going on trees that are considered hazardous to roads and people, which I agree, we need to get them down.
and buildings.
But then you're not going to have that is not implemented yet. I just wonder if that's going to be a struggle.
Katie's going to speak to that.
Well, so just a couple of thoughts. These programs are all going to run concurrently, really, even in the best case scenario. We're going to have the government hazard tree removal program going on, and we're going to push as many properties on this list through those tree felling operations as we can to make use of those services that are in town. Potentially having to have a separate procurement process for the assessments, monitors, and tree fellers for the unenrolled properties, which are going to extend beyond when the state is here. So we have the state program going on. We're going to have abatement, hopefully starting here with notices going out as soon as we've got this legal process in place. We've got the RFP kind of prepared for the public hearing officers, all of that. And then the town has asked to expedite Category 4 tree funding, which is going to be the back 40. So truly, at any one time, 3 to 6 months from now, we could have all three of these things happening concurrently. And one of the things that I want to say...
Are we ready for that?
So we are, Kevin, we are getting ready for that. No, we're not currently. I mean, it's, one human, but so we are getting ready for that in terms of really understanding all of the, the capacity that's reimbursable through this program, because I think it's important to say that abatement is reimbursable under the FEMA PA program, which we have in the staff report, which means that there will be, a slice of that at the responsibility of the town. But in terms of building capacity to be able to do this, we need public hearing officers, potentially additional legal counsel, anyway, someone maybe to manage the procurement process, all of that.
Right, and totally agree. And again, when I bring up these questions, it's only, I'm looking at this train wreck a few months down the road, being
Because you're
that
smart and you see all the pieces,
Well,
there's a tremendous number of...
we're going to be going into summertime, and we're going to have also weeds and abatement
Yep.
for lots on that too.
Go ahead,
On
Kevin,
top
because
of-
we are talking about...
When we're not in the
Yeah.
summer, we're going to be in the winter, if with any luck, with rain, which would hurt things.
With rain.
But we actually need the rain, so yeah.
So those things don't stop.
So the biggest thing, and I'm going to agree with you on the Category 4 trees, those back 40 trees. If we're abating a property, it means that property has not enrolled in anything. There's been no communication. They've done nothing with their property. Those back 40 trees are going to be an issue, because the hazard mitigation grant is somebody who wants to take out their trees and is enrolling into that program and is paying 25% of that. So those trees are going to be an issue. So what the key thing that we're going to look for with all of the complexities of abatement is we're going to look to all of our resources available to get them out of abatement. Let's not do abatement. So we're going to create lists, and those lists will be given to you. And we will be asking you to go through that list and anybody you possibly can contact to get them in some type of program, whatever it is. Maybe there's even not-for-profit out there that can help them cut their trees down. Any way we can get them from not going through this abatement program is going to save everybody in this town a headache. So we're creating a list that we visually have seen on their property. They have hazard trees from a roadside assessment that's been done within a week or two, that we're going to be getting lists out to individual council members, to staff, and we're going to just blanket and try to find them any way possible to get them to work in their property. And if they still encourage them to submit those ROEs, and we will plead with the state to take them because they're still here, we can still maybe try to get them into the program. So that's our last, that will take care of so much if we can get this number whittled down. But those category 4 trees are.
And that's going to be later in the year.
So just a quick point on what Kevin said about reaching. Sorry, a quick point to add on what Kevin said about reaching out to anyone we know about the trees on their property and can they get it done, and please get it done, and you'll be helping yourself and others. A good point to make without being threatening, and I think with just being realistic, and depending on who the people are and how much they care and what they have or don't have, is that this is at this point is a liability issue for a lot of people. You know, we know that trees are a problem. They've been around for a couple of years now. Everybody knows about it. So if you leave your tree, you could be subjecting yourself, you know, to some problems if it hurts somebody or something. And there's a nice way to deliver that message that may or may not nudge people a little further along to take responsibility.
Katie? On those back 40 trees, especially the ones that may be threatening someone else's new rebuild, the Fire Safe Council has a program to help people get trees off neighbors' properties that are threatening their homes. And Rotary has funded that program. So Rotary just let the Fire Safe Council know that they have additional money that they could give to that program if the Fire Safe Council wants to apply for additional funds. And that could be a way for, I'm just imagining that some of the people who are not taking care of any of this, they really don't have the money to pay the 25% of the category 4 trees. So I'm only telling you this so maybe you could coordinate with the Fire Safe Council and they could help pay that 25% for the people who really don't have anything.
Yeah, that's great news, because as of the last time I heard, we were in coordination with the Fire Safe Council. They're removing non-eligible trees, so trees that were not eligible for the government tree removal program, which are the back 40 trees. So they were out of funding and they've been applying for funding. I was even asking for funding for them. So to hear that they have funding now is excellent.
Well, I don't know
news.
that they do. I just know
Okay.
that Rotary told them we have additional money if you want to
Sure.
apply.
So I'll check with them. The Category 4 program, we are still working with the Fire Safe Council on all of the components of that. I just mentioned that in relation to the fact that it's another sequence in terms, probably an overlapping sequence. But we can do a whole presentation on Category 4 for sure.
Great. And
Yeah.
then I had one comment on the actual ordinance. There's a typo.
Okay.
It's on,
Oh, Eagle Eye might have seen that we corrected one on page 27.
no, this is on, well, page 36 of our agenda packet, which is page 24 of the ordinance. And it's in the section 3.14. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, a couple of sentences down, it says, if the matter is set for hearing, the enforcement officer shall post the property upon which the public nuisance, I think that word should.
Exists.
Exists, not exits.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll correct that. Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you.
You're
Just
welcome.
for your record, while we're pointing them out, there was another one that I don't think found its way into your package yet, but on page 27 in F, second line up from the bottom, should say, is not voluntarily abated within the time prescribed. And it will be corrected to reflect that when adopted.
Mark, I got a couple of questions.
Where do you guys find this?
They read the packet.
Wow.
Greg. They read the,
I did too, but man.
I have a question. So on this abatement, well, first of all, I think that, I'm glad to hear that maybe Rotary's funding Fire Safe Council, but I think it also is inherent on the town to go look for some grant funding, because when we get to stage 4, there are a whole bunch of people that are not going to have the money to pay that 25%. And so we're going to have the same problem and have to go abate them. But my questions are, like when you talked about, okay, we're not going to ask them to ask for a hearing, which would be expedited, let us just go in there and get the trees, or go to the court to get the trees.
I'm sorry, but I just fell off the train. I didn't understand. You
Okay,
said we're
what
not going
I'm
to ask
asking,
them
you said
to.
we're going to set a hearing, and then we're going to go in front of the court. Now, is that individual?
No, I want to slow down a little bit and break it down, because there's a lot of things going on here. The first thing is to set a hearing with a hearing officer. It's not the court.
Okay.
And we're going to set a hearing, and that hearing's going to.
Let me simplify my question.
Okay, thank you.
Are we going to be able to take these abated properties in groups, or are they going to be done individually?
No, we're hoping to do them in groups. The county mentioned batches of 25.
Okay, no, that was my question.
And I don't know what the court will entertain or be able to process. Maybe they'll say, hey, give us 50 at a time.
Right.
Maybe they'll say, hey, we're only doing 10 at a time. Maybe they'll say we're only doing them every other week. Maybe they'll say we'll do 2 days a week. I don't know what they'll say.
I just wanted to know,
Yeah,
can
but
we do it in a group or not?
We're
That
going
was
to do them in the largest
simple
groups.
answer I
that-
needed.
I'm sorry.
Okay, and then you talked about, we're going to need to hire these people and more attorneys. Who bears that cost?
Well, Katie can address that, but I guess the town, and one of the reasons that we decided to comport with the county procedure is that there is a federal and or state money available. That's not my bailiwick.
This is the FEMA debris removal project, which is category A, which under that, normally it's 75% feds, about 25% is 75% of the state, and we hold about 8%. I think it's 8%. With the federal legislation, it went to 90%. So the federal government will pay 90% of the cost. The state will take over 7.5% of the cost, and the local share will be 2.5%.
Of whatever these extra attorneys, extra judge or hearing officers, for the whole legal cost, which is.
Legal cost,
Huge.
staff cost, correct.
So part of our staff will get.
Some of whatever our staff is working on that, if we need to bring in extra help, that will also be included in that.
So do we
those costs.
know what those costs will be? No.
We have not been able to put a pin on it, but we know it's going to be expensive. It'll probably.
So we're going to approve an ordinance that's going to have an expense that's unknown. And if we approve it,
I think you approve ordinances always with an expense.
Well,
that's
yeah, it might
unknown.
be, but I mean, that's why I'm here, is to ask these questions.
Correct.
Because people out there paying taxes are wanting to know.
That's true.
How the money's getting spent, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But if we contact them all and they don't have to go through it,
And
zero.
did I get, and let me do, then, did I get the sense that in this effort we're all going to participate in, calling our friends and neighbors and anybody we know that has an empty lot that's scrammed, there is a possibility that the state program, the deadlines have closed, but people can still sign up, maybe?
We are going to beg.
Yep,
Go ahead.
so we are in the process of begging, and what we're saying to folks is that we're advocating to have the ROE approved, and then we're sending them all to the state. So as we speak, we're collecting ROEs. So one of the other things that I want to say about the timing of abatement is working on the private program properties first allows for us to utilize some of the on-site inspection data that we gathered from those failed inspections, and will allow us to utilize the state resources in terms of assessment monitoring and tree felling. That is a much shorter process than the unenrolled properties. So we're going to kind of dive into those first. If properties, and I know Kevin said, and we're all emphasizing, we're trying to get that number down as quickly as possible and as completely as possible. If properties do end up on the abatement risk list, We will be asking for data on active building permits, on standing structures, so that we can internally, to our best extent possible, prioritize some of the abatement so we can protect those structures as we remove trees from unenrolled properties. So that's something that we've certainly learned from the government hazard tree removal program that we're going to hopefully employ to do the best to reduce the stress of a very stressful situation in town.
So I would imagine after we do, like, say, the first 25, maybe 50, I think the court will probably move things through quicker than maybe it initially looks like. It seems generally in dealing with the courts, once they kind of have a game plan, then they move it through.
You're exactly right, and that's the hope, and that's why it's so important to get our arborist reports in a proper form, and we haven't seen those yet, but we have examined some of them and had meetings with what those requirements are. You know, the trees have to be properly identified. You can't show a judge a picture of a property with 6 trees, and we don't even know where the boundary, or there's 10 trees in the picture, and we go, there's a tree on this lot that's a danger and it needs to come down. We don't even know which tree it is. Or I think there is, but I can't be sure. We need very qualified arborist reports that convince the court that we've done our due diligence, we know what we're talking about, the tree's a danger, here it is, give us the authority to take it down, and if that picture is properly presented over and over again, that wheel will turn more quickly. Because
I think
they'll know that
that'll-
we're doing our job.
That'll
they
be a
do that?
key, if you write those reports in such a way that even if it's someone that doesn't really know about trees, they can lay them out, and if all the reports are done the same way, then that helps the court to just sort of run through them.
You're 100% correct, and what I tell people all the time with declarations and reports like that is you got to understand that the judge is not an arborist.
Right.
I'm not an arborist. Historically, I've worked with a lot of tree cases. I'm fortunate in that regard. But a lot of people, you know, it's like, what the heck are you talking about? You know, it's got to be a stepping stone to get you to where you go, oh, it's very easy to get there. That's right.
So here's a question. You say you got to present the court with this, or with these pictures and an arborist report. How does the arborist get onto the trees, especially the back 40? Does that come from your warrant?
That comes from the inspection warrant
Okay,
process.
So they
We
physically have to go on the property?
Yes, we determined by looking at, we started thinking that we might run with these roadside assessments, or somebody did.
Right.
We had all these roadside assessments. We started looking at them and going, I'm not really sure what they're getting at. I can't see it, or the language is such where there's, you know, they're putting things right in their report that I think this, but I can't be sure because I'm not on the property. That's not going to do it. So we now have to go, we know we have to go through the inspection process, get on the property, document, tag them with paint, do whatever it is that we know where they are, what they are, explain what they are, and get a proper report issued.
Because I know somebody that got a citation for a tree from a roadside assessment, and the tree wasn't even on their property.
Well, these are the, you know, and the very perfect point, because it's not black and white out there. There's no,
Well, and
you know,
this-
there's fence lines and you think it's a property. It's not even the property. It's an old.
Well,
it-
and the
it's-
other thing, Mark, too, is that one of the things we've run into with the existing tree program is, we're hearing this from a lot of, I've seen numerous crews come out in the beginning to map it, to record it and map it. Then I saw more than one crew of arborists come out and tag the same tree, and then another crew come out and look at the same, I mean, you know, this is a problem we've had with the program start up to this point. I mean, it's a lot of people looking at the same tree numerous
I
times.
do want to set expectations, if I can, on that,
Please.
though, that tree felling and abatement will follow a similar process of tree felling in the government program. So the assessment, monitoring, archaeology, biology, all of that will be, because the FEMA, it's eligible. So those are the compliance factors, which is why getting these properties out of the abatement process in the first place is really our best bet. So, but if we do end up in abatement, it will have sort of that multi-phase process. But what we will have control over in abatement is that public messaging piece that we really haven't had control over in the government hazard tree removal program. We've also learned a lot, and we'll be sitting at the table.
I just think it's our job sometimes as local municipalities and local government to push back on some of the ineptness and waste of these government programs. You know,
And it's a certainly understandable feeling. I'll just comment that when you're, you know, we're in the government programs, and when they're paying 97.5% of it, you're not going to change the beast in Washington. It's just not, realistically, it's not going to happen. Instead of it being a 1.5 year program, it'll be a 20-year program, and we still won't get it changed So that's.
Good luck on that.
That's what we're addressing. And I'm glad this came up because, as Katie mentioned, we've been talking about it internally. These cultural resource assessments, I mean, you know, they have their little chits, you know, they have to check that box and this box and the next box, and they are going to go through that process.
Well, I still think that, you know, it's still legitimate in America for us to say, your process has some flaws.
It's certainly
And-
legitimate
And
to-
as a taxpayer, we'd like you to address those.
It's
you know?
totally
I mean, we're
legitimate
not going to
comment.
win, I understand we're not going to win the fight. I get that. I mean, I'm not ignorant. But, you know, I think that we need to, if enough people
To speak
across
up.
this country keep making, you know, saying something about it instead of just saying, oh, yeah, that's government and rolling over, you know? I mean, it's just like on the FEMA dollars, and that's kind of what drives it. So they come in, we had all of the archaeologists and the Indians and everybody look at all of the stuff before we dug the dirt. Now we're just taking down trees. We're not digging any dirt. And here we are. Let's look again, see if there's any more artifacts. What a,
Hopefully it'll be a less, I don't purport to know the
Well,
process.
then I'll
Maybe it'll be
stop.
maybe
I'll
it'll be a
stop.
real cursory process. Hopefully it will. You make a good point. Yeah, I don't know what that process will be. I just know that when they have their chitties in it, to approve it and get in the program, they're going to follow their rules.
So at this point, do you need a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Do we have any comments?
Yes, so we are asking for approval or comments on the proposed revised ordinance.
Do you have comments,
I
Dean?
did not receive any email comments or requests for phone calls on this item.
Then I'll move approval of the ordinance with the 2 typos corrected.
I'll second that. Good job on the typos.
Motion by Jones, seconded by Boland to waive the reading of entire Town of Paradise ordinance number, and this will be changed to ordinance number 604, and adopt Town of Paradise urgency ordinance number 604, an urgency ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Paradise repealing urgency ordinance number 602, and adopting new ordinance relating to requirements of a mandatory hazard tree removal program inside the campfire area. Roll call vote. Councilmember Boland.
Aye.
Councilmember Colleton.
aye.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Tryon.
Aye.
And Mayor Crowder.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie. So, item 2.
And Mark?
Item 2C, consider approving the salary schedule for part-time hourly building on-site inspector presented by Tony Lindsay.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Crowder, Vice Mayor Jones, esteemed council, Tony Lindsay, Community Development Director, and proud to say for the Town of Paradise.
Yay.
Thank you for this opportunity for me to serve the citizens in the community. Today's agenda item is regarding position control and salary schedule is an addendum to previously council action approving the salary allocations item presented by my fellow director, Susan Hartman. Staff is recommending the approval of part-time and hourly positions for the remainder of the fiscal year. Private development activity remains high, and these positions, if approved, will allow more flexibility to meet the demands for services, as well, better position the division to pick up these positions. Bringing seasoned, experienced staff in, or simply qualified staff seeking only part-time work. This is the initial step rebuilding division's minimum operational staffing, as well as supporting the housing division. In part, we'll be funding and utilizing these staff positions to complete damaged property survey using housing CDBG monies. The CDBG dollars have an expiration requiring my immediate attention, and thank you for allowing me to agendize this item on your special meeting. This concludes my presentation. Available for questions.
So who is doing these current functions now? How are they being performed?
Currently, we don't have a part-time or hourly positions to do, for instance, the CDBG surveys. Right now, as far as building inspectors, we use contracted consultants. We don't have any direct hired staff yet.
So we're going through 4-leaf.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think part of it is is this saving us money by doing it that way? And that's what I'm not seeing in this package as an analysis that says, okay, this is what we're spending now, this is where our town savings will be. So that's something that I would like to see on this.
Correct. Well, I can tell you there is great savings using like retired annuitants. So retired annuitants have a particular dollar amount, and that's what you see on the salary schedule currently. If I was to position a four-leaf inspector, that would be at $75 an hour. So in comparison, I can bring on a part-time staffer at 37, retired annuitant only working 18 hours a week, doing those two positions, and facilitate, for one, taking some of the needs off of our private development, like morning inspection runs. Currently, right now, we average 33 inspections. Traditionally, they're 26 in the morning and there's 6 in the afternoon. So if I was to bring on this part-time building inspector, it could help facilitate some morning inspections and in the future, remove a consultant.
In the future, it would remove a
Well, yes.
consultant.
So once we get everybody up to speed, correct. So we have a couple weeks for the approval, and then you have to do onboarding and stuff. That takes another few weeks to get them on board. And then, depending upon the skill set, how we could utilize them. Typically, retired annuitants in the industry bring on a lot of experience with them. And so they're seasoned professionals. Typically, it's staffers looking for just some additional monies and resources that we can help us provide, not only in the building industry but also in fire. So we're looking at a variety of options to flexibly staff these positions.
Okay, but I think I'm still not hearing the point that I'm looking at, which is we currently have four-leaf hired to do these.
We currently
So
have,
with four-leaf, we can say, hey, we don't have anything for you today, go ahead and leave, and we wouldn't be paying for those hours, correct?
currently a four-leaf inspector makes a whole day's wage, whether they've got 6 inspections or if they have a full run of 10. That's why I think you were privy to a conversation that we had about reducing consultants, the amount of consultants that we have performing.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in favor of reducing consultants and having our own employees. But I guess in this particular case, what I'm looking for is information, is this is the right time to do this? Or are we bringing on people part-time? And are we looking at, health insurance, retirement, things like that? With the retired people, obviously not, we wouldn't have to do a lot of those things. So I guess what I'm looking for is where is our financial trade-off? Is this the right time to do that? And that's what I'm not seeing in the report.
And I just have one question with the $75 versus 37, I think is what you said.
Correct.
So the 75 is the 75. There's nothing else that goes with that. That $37, we would still have workers' comp. Any benefits?
Not for the hourly positions, right? For the part-time, the 25-hour one, you do. The city has a program where if you work an employee for more than 20 hours, you have to give them benefits, and they do. So that's one position to bring on board to help bolster our like morning inspection runs, right? And that could potentially leave removing another consultant off our rolls. That would help. It's initial step to rebuilding, a building division, right? And we only brought this about without a comprehensive organizational structure to help facilitate housing's property survey. So I think we would have had a much better presented when we come in at mid-year, at budget and present the organizational structure that we're looking to achieve.
What is this housing thing you're talking about?
So
this CDBG?
CDBG monies, and that's betterly suited for Kate to explain
but I
that
mean-
funding mechanism. But they have they have a property survey of every yellow tagged house throughout the town to see if their repairs have been made to them. And so this is essentially it's a windshield survey to see if the repairs have been made to these structures that were received yellow tags.
Yeah, let me ask you, what is our cost of procurement, even for a part-time employee? What does it cost us to hire somebody, even part-time?
I'm not privy to.
I don't have that number.
Because and I'm sure not for a building inspector, although I don't know about the fire marshal part, but I know for certain positions, it's pretty extensive. There's background checks, there's a bunch. There's a real hard number that goes with procurement. And I mean, just kind of tag teaming on Rose's question, we got a whole bunch of analysis when we created the position you now hold, which was, we agreed to because we could see this coming. There were some savings down the road. I know that I heard from people I know at Four Leaf that it was I haven't seen the contract. I heard it was $65, but I heard it's, we do have a contract that, I don't know, they've just done a heck of a job for us in the most difficult times. And I'm not, I want us to have our own employees. I want us to do our own thing, but I just like to know what all the numbers are. These kinds of things that confuse me when I'm approving something that I've already funded or something, it's a little, I understand the thing that, okay, if we okay this, then you can, and I guess that was a question I had with Kevin earlier, was like, well, where are you going to find these people? Right now, finding any kind of labor anywhere is really difficult. So this idea that you're hiring retired building inspectors and retired government employees that are looking for some part-time work and we can legally work a while. So that kind of answered that part for me, but it's just like, so how, this is all saying be effective today. If I pass this, it's effective today. And so, are there people in the wings? Have people already been interviewed and recruited? Does it mean that, Four Leaf needs to pack your bags, get the hell out of here? I'm not going to be able to get an inspection next week or what? A few questions there, Tony.
Yeah, this augments our staff, right? We will be consistent with delivering our product to our consumers, right? This will not affect, it will only bolster that. So we will have consistent messaging going back. The staffing augmentation provided by Four Leaf, and basically they've done a stellar job throughout. This will just augment those operations.
Okay, so now I'm confused because I thought I understood that this would actually save us money, that we would be getting rid of some four-leaf people and using these people instead. So how much problem will it cause you to bring this back on March 9th with an analysis that shows the council whether we're saving money or not, or whether we have a need that requires us to spend more money? I don't know from this and from what you've said whether we're going to be spending more money or less.
One thing I'd like to see, Tony, is the $35, $37 an hour with workers' comp, with everything, and is it $60 an hour? Sure. Because then you can compare to the 75 and you get a true comparison, and it's real black and white what we're saving or what have you. Can you get that?
Sure we can.
So
Will it cause you a problem if we bring this back on the 9th?
I think we can do it at council's will.
Okay.
I recommend that we go ahead and bring this back. so
Well,
we
can I
get
say
the-
something
the
first before you
correct
guys make
information.
that decision? So Four Leaf has done a tremendous job. I mean, if everybody here, I probably work with them the most. And I think they've done a stellar job, as has been said. There's going to come a time that we need to transition. You can't do that at the end of a fiscal year and the start of the new fiscal year. It doesn't happen on a dime. It takes time to do that transition. As much as I've appreciated Four Leaf, I've also watched a lot of extra bodies at times that don't need to be there. We pay for that.
Yep.
This council hasn't asked for an update on that or seen that situation when we're spending more money than we're probably even taking in because Four Leaf has overstaffed it. So we're
I think
little-
council members have asked for that.
Well, we haven't asked for it here. If you've asked for it
Maybe not
individually,
in
that's
the
fine.
meeting, but, yeah.
But all I'm saying is, as good as they've done, and they have fit a niche, and I have nothing but praise to say about what Four Leaf has done. There comes a time that we need to make that transition to have our own staff. There's something when you have your own people that buy into your system and to what you're doing, and you can regulate that a whole lot easier and a whole lot better. I believe tremendously, we can ask to have them come back and do that, that's fine. But we're going to save a lot of money, having our own people and doing our own thing. Now, yeah, you're right. We pay an hourly rate for a contract person. If we take on someone full-time, yeah, we're going to have their ongoing liability and costs going forward. I get that. But there's going to come a time we need that to happen. And it can't happen. We can't say at the end of the fiscal year and then we're going to start. There's got to be that transition. And when we're going to start that, I guess we'll all decide.
And actually, you brought up a good point. I have not on council, but prior to, asked several times to see Four Leaf, what we were taking in, what we were putting out, and I've never been able to get those figures. And I have not asked Kevin for those. But I would like to see those figures as well. Is that something that
I'm sure we can provide that.
I think that would really be helpful as well. And I mean, and I get what Greg's saying, and I agree. Eventually, we need to have our own staff and what have you. But I just want to make a good fiscal decision, and I want to have all the information available to me to do it. And is it going to, if we put it off until the March meeting, another 2 weeks, is that going to be detrimental to anything?
I think it will put us in a little bit of crunch to expend the CBG monies because they do have an expiration. But I think we can certainly do it and bring back the information that you're requesting.
So
I was just going to say that I agree with Greg. I think we need to transition to having our own staff. I would just, the reason I want to put it off 2 weeks is I just would like to see the analysis of the fiscal impacts, and it's not here. And I think that's our job.
Yeah, and what Greg said is true. I will say that, because I built a house and had to deal with Four Leaf and stuff, and, got to know some of those people. We've never seen the contract. I've been told that it's pretty kind of an open kind of thing. If we want to alter it and say, just have 2 guys work one day. I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see what's really in there, what their flexibility is. I'm not sure that I was told it was $65 an hour, but maybe I was told wrong. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that we don't have the ability to direct them to say, if you don't have any work after noon, check out. And we're not paying $75. We're paying for the hours. I don't know, but I haven't seen the contract. So, and I would like to see the analysis with everybody else. What I will say is that in talking to somebody that walked in here after the fire, and there were 14 sets of plans laying on the floor, what they put together and some of the processes, my experience with our building department and some of our old protocols, and I spoke with you about this earlier, I think some of the changes that have been made, what we hired them to do, what they did, they came and developed some processes that were new, different than what we used to do. And I think some of those have worked out very, very well for our community and for people trying to rebuild here. And I would hate to see, I want to have our own employees. I'm a guy that believes in our employees 100%. But I would not, I would hope we would keep some of the things. I understand what you're saying. We need to bring some people in, get them up to speed, and it's a transition. So if you can bring back those numbers, and if they have money in CDBG, just let them spend it,
Yes.
Thanks, Sonny.
We can
So just to be clear then, that money is going to come from those funds, is that correct?
Well, it partially will. I mean, so it's a partial that they have. It's like $9,000 in the staff report that comes from CDBG to complete surveys, as well as some allocated funds that we pulled out of contractual services and put them into salaries, so we could have these part-time positions funded.
With that analysis, Tony, maybe show me the plan. Like, let's say that we approve this right now and you went and hired 3 part-time people or whatever. What is the plan? Like, hey, they're gonna start Monday and so we're gonna have a little bit more expense, you know, because we're gonna have 2 4-leaf people here and 3 part-time people that we're bringing, you know. It would be kind of nice to see how that works, you know. I mean, 'cause I don't have a problem to make the transition, like Greg said. I understand that's gonna. So if we got to pay a few extra $100 or a couple extra $1,000 for a period of time as we make that transition, because that's what this whole deal was about when we decided to divide up the department and have 2 department heads, is we were going to be able to transition out of contract labor and have our own department once again. And so, kind of, you know what I'm saying? If you could show me, show me what your implementation plan is.
Will kind of be fluid depending on the skill sets that we're able to recruit.
So myself, like, show me our P&L now and in 6 months. Are we going to be greater than or less than?
Sure.
And that's what I'm.
We can give you a 6-month analysis.
Well, I'm pulling that out of the 6 month, 12 month, 3 months.
Okay.
You know,
Sure.
whatever time you think is correct. That number just kind of jumped out. So whatever time frame that you think is fair to make a comparison.
I certainly want to make sure council's comfortable with making your decision. I run the enterprise fund and special funds as like kind of a private business, so I'm a very good steward of public funds, and I can appreciate your approach.
Thank
So
you.
we're good to, so is that cool? Do you have enough, I mean, is it okay to bring us back with all of those parts?
Of course it is.
I mean, is that our direction? Is that what we're doing, Steve?
And you'll have that at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, Tony?
If you need it.
Right answer. That's right.
No, I think we're good. And we'll bring it back to the March 9th meeting.
Is that what we do? Do we continue it, or we just take concurrence, or do we table it? What do we do?
Does all council concur to bring it back to the March 9th meeting?
I
Yes.
do, yes.
Yes.
All right, so everybody
Yes.
concurs. Thank you.
I do have a quick question, if you don't mind, before you go. You said something about structures with yellow tags. Can you explain that to me?
So during the structure assessment program, we went around, and I say we, because I ran the program while working for the city of Chico, for the town of Paradise.
This was after the fire.
Yes, a couple weeks right after the fire. We came up and we assessed every property. Obviously, it was a little easier than just due to the mass destruction, right? But there are some damaged properties, right? And so those damaged properties are still on the books of not being cleared. So you tag it, you put a green tag, a yellow tag, or simply red tag. And we didn't red tag any remains. So the structures that were yellow tagged had suffered some damage, and that damage was maybe melted siding, maybe melted windows, right? Some sort of partial burn. It was, there weren't a lot, but I mean, obviously there's about 800 homes. I think they have to, do a quick survey.
So these were existing homes
Yeah.
that made it through the fire?
Yeah, that made it through the fire. So they either got a yellow tag or a green tag that they were, clean, right?
So they got a
survived.
certificate of occupancy?
Well, they originally got a certificate of occupancy, right?
When they were built.
built.
Okay.
So these were just standing homes that, were green tagged homes that, had gone unscathed. The yellow tag homes suffered some damage. And obviously the red tag homes were the burnt remains.
It wasn't a whole house inspection. It was just
Drive.
some of them you walked around, some of them you had to
Sure.
just stay out in the street and look at. It was just very generic.
So on the yellow tagged homes, like your example was it had burnt siding. I mean, is it your stance that we would now, since those homes were yellow tagged, be going back and doing some type of a process, forcing them to
I think,
fix their siding?
I think they're looking forward to use their funds to help fix the homes.
Okay.
You know, certainly housing will go out and see if they can assist the homeowners in making the repairs.
Got it. So this isn't like a punitive yellow tag. It's
It's-
like, hey, we're going to touch back in with you and see if we can help you fix what you're doing.
Exactly. If you're, you know, what's going on.
Or see if
touch
they've
base.
already fixed it themselves.
Correct. And many have, right? But, you know, Kate's program, she wants to fund and help, you know, provide, you know, the dollars or, you know, just the expertise to fix the homes.
And is there any, I mean, for whatever reason, if somebody said, no, I'm not going to fix it, I don't want to fix it, are we just going to go, okay, and or are we going to take any action?
I don't think we're looking to do any punitive action unless that was the direction council wanted.
Why would, how could you? How could you? Unless it was a red tagged home, how could you? Unless it was overgrown with, unless it violated some of our other things like our new fire codes or something.
Sure.
How could you?
Right.
He just said he wouldn't.
You know?
Yeah, no, it would have to be.
We got to get out of
Right.
that business, man. you know?
No, it's not a punitive, this isn't a punitive action.
Yeah.
going on.
That's all I was asking.
And Kate needs help with that. I understand what she's trying to do. She has a program where they can help people. And so that's where, let's
Correct.
hook her up with our public information person. And let's get her on Linda Watkins Bennett and let's let people know, hey, if your home was damaged in the campfire, call this number. We've got some funds available for you, you know? I mean, you know.
She's already doing that.
Is she?
Yeah.
Well, let's double that effort if you got an extra $1,000.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Tony. So, next item, 2D, consider discussion of future town attorney services. Kevin?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, council members. So Mark Habib had come to me last week with the kind of statement that he was not looking to renew his contract, giving us enough time to move forward with an option different than services. I know Dwight is on the retirement train also, and so I don't know if Mark wants to make a statement before we go out, but I was looking for direction from council.
I do want to make a statement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Crowder and council members. So when I came here, I think most of you were here, and I made it clear that I want to work here. I love this town, and I have great admiration for all of your service and your staff. I want to know that I'm doing a great job and that I can do a great job if I'm working here. Dwight has a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge in government law that I don't have. Dwight needs to just completely shut down by the end of June. And having been here for several months and seeing what we need here, I don't think I'm the ammunition that you need going forward that I want you to have. And I'm tapped out in other areas. I can't absorb, 30 years of government law practice in a few months. So that's why I'm basically asking to amend my firm's contract so that it ends at the end of June, when I know that Dwight wants to be fully retired. I believe that Dwight wants to stay on to the extent he's needed in a contractual basis, either directly with the town or through new counsel to work on abatement proceedings and filings, and to the extent that anybody needs or wants him to, I think that he's available to do that. Likewise, to the extent I can be of any assistance to the town in court or other proceedings, I want to do it. But I don't think I'm the guy that should be your town attorney for all, government work services. I think both sides would be better served by getting a more institutional government lawyer to take on that position.
I just have a tremendous amount of respect for you to come up and say that and just say, hey, I'm probably not your guy. And I just want to say I really appreciate that. And that just shows your commitment to this town and not about ego, that it's really about what's best for the town. And just thank you.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. And I've actually, I've never had to look for work because I do my best and I take cases that I know I can do a good job on, and that's the only way I like to work. So thank you.
I want to thank you too, because, you've been, maybe a lot of people here don't know, you've been with us a long time, because Dwight was our government guy. He knows, government jurisdictions and all that stuff, and, but he's not a litigator. And we've had our share of litigations over the years.
We haven't.
And you're the fellow that has always represented our community.
Thank you, and to be crystal
And
clear,
you've
I
done
don't
a
want
great
that,
job.
I don't want that to change one iota. You know, I've actually had to turn down a lot of litigation work because of my town attorney position. And I'm very versed in that, I'm comfortable with it, I'm ready to go with it, so I want to do the town's litigation work and any work that I can do to an excellent degree for the town
So
going
you're
forward.
still available to
Oh,
us as a
absolutely.
litigator?
Absolutely.
Good job,
Yeah.
Mark. Thanks.
And we could really fix this real easy. Hey, Dwight, sorry, you just can't retire.
It's another way out of it, yeah.
Can't retire and you can't die, so get over it.
It'll only be another 5 years. We should be through this.
You'll want
I don't
one,
think
buddy.
anyone has any questions, but I'm happy to answer them. So what I would envision, just to put a bow on it, is to amend the contract to end at the end of June, and we'd bring it back in the next meeting for that. And then also I want to be flexible with the town. Again, if you have somebody lined up that's ready to go, I want that to happen. And I could also easily see that we'd want us both to be in here any event until the end of June. There's no shortage of work that the town has going right now.
So if we don't find somebody, you two are stuck with us?
Well, I'm going to have to confer with Dwight on that. But I do think that we can comfortably be expected to work to the end of June, even if we get somebody, town blesses somebody sooner than that. There's just a lot going on.
So
here
wait a
right now
minute,
that
if we
needs work.
don't let you out of your contract, then you sue us, then how, that's gonna be tricky.
Let's
now.
not
You gotta
go, let's
represent
not
us
go
and-
there. So
Well,
Kevin,
I
you're
didn't hear
looking
that.
for
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate
some direction on where to go here. So I have a concern about how we find our next town attorney.
Okay.
And I had that concern when Dwight first announced that he wanted to retire, and we were lucky enough to get Mark. I know that Chico just changed town attorneys, and the firm that they hired is well-respected. They're also from LA. They're a huge firm. They represent lots of cities in the state. I'm not interested in that.
Okay.
And I don't know how we find somebody like Dwight that is not part of a huge firm that's based in LA or San Francisco that knows nothing about Paradise and our culture and our town, but that's what I would be looking for. And I would ask that you somehow search for somebody younger than Dwight that can do what Dwight used to do for us.
Dwight's kid? Do I have a kid?
Younger.
So this is the direction that I am looking for. So most cities and towns out there right now are going with the firm option. The firm option does give you quite a bit more horsepower, though. You have an office that has an individual that's abatement only, and an office that does employment practice, contract law. So you have a full package of attorneys that you're able to choose and pick from. One of the options is to go out for an RFP, to gather all the RFPs up, right? Look for one that might have some local ties or something that would serve us in that capacity where you feel like you're getting that individual service. That's one option. The other option is to go out for a in-house attorney, which, to be honest, I think is becoming rare, and that's why it's hard to find. And try to lure an individual either from one of the firms to come in and be the in-house attorney, or from another municipality out there that has in-house attorneys currently, which would be like counties. Counties mostly have county counsel that's internal. Or we could go kind of at the same route and come have RFPs. You're gathering RFPs. People take a lot of time and effort, and we've seen that with kind of some of the rejection of bids. So they put a lot of time and effort into that. If that's not the direction that we want to go at all, I wouldn't even go down that route, because then we're asking people to do a whole bunch of work for nothing, right? So that's why I put this on the agenda.
How long do these firms, do they have 1-year agreements, 2-year agreements? What do they?
Typically, it's a year.
1 year?
Typically, it's a year. Typically, it's a year, and there can be out provisions even within that. Look, any really reputable people shouldn't want to work unless they're wanted and doing the job.
Right.
So all those kinds of things are negotiable.
So
You're going to want to get somebody that you're really comfortable with. Dwight and I are talking about it. We've mentioned a couple of names to Kevin, but not anything in the way of a recommendation. We're thinking about it. We'll pass on names, and Kevin can, to the extent we think of them, and Kevin can investigate or not investigate as he sees fit and pass it on to you folks. But we'll be on the subject of who fits. Because there is a fit here, and there is a Northern California mentality. So that you know, Vince, who they just hired out of Los Angeles, the city of Chico, they hired him several years ago and then fired his firm.
Yes, I know.
Oh, yeah, okay, and then they rehired him and stuff. So, yeah, there's fits, you know, and at different times, there's different fits. And so they brought him back for good reason, and obviously they felt that he did a good job.
I
and wanted
agree
him
with
back.
Jody. I mean, I've enjoyed having Dwight and Mark now, and I think that's been a very good fit for us. But I don't know that we'll find somebody. So I think we need to also be looking at a firm that we can have in our back pocket and start grooming to work with us. And we can still look for someone during that year and see if we can come up with somebody. So.
And the League of California Cities can help with that because they've got, they work with all of them and you know, they can help us identify our needs and any of the conferences you go to, you get them all and they represent 5 cities, 6 cities, whatever.
Yes.
That would be my recommendation, Kevin, would be to contact the league and find out what resources are available through the league, which we're members of, because that's in the short term. And I think I appreciate you and Dwight looking for some names and giving them to us. I would have Kevin call Gallagher, see what our assemblyman knows, if he knows any, you know, because we want somebody that knows municipal law and that, you know, I mean, I think we would all, at least I know I agree with Greg and Jody. I'd much rather have a town attorney, contractual, just somebody working for us.
My concern is, you know, everybody thinks they're special, but we're kind of in a unique situation up here. I mean, this is pretty unique. And,
Super unique.
Yeah, and it is something I think possibly would take a little more attention. I don't want to think, you know, we're not a big municipality, but there's a lot of moving parts, as you've learned.
It's exactly.
And I think that's kind of my concern is that in the next couple of years, there's like a whole gamut of things that we're going to be dealing with. And I echo everything everybody else here. I think if we go to the League of Cities, we need to focus on, you know, their rural caucus that they have in there and the rural towns and working with them versus the city towns. And I think the other part about that is to have somebody in-house with all that we have going on right now might be a pretty big ask. And that's where kind of a firm type approach almost sort of appeals to me because they will have a lot of specialty people just because we have so much going on. So I'm kind of torn between the two. I can see a value in taking on a firm, and I can see my preference would be to have one person who could do it all. So.
And keep in mind that when you do have one person, it's not at all unusual for the town to hire out outside counsel for the employment case or for the litigation case that I'm handling for a dangerous condition of public property or for whatever purpose. It's very common. It's more common than not, actually, for that to happen. But it's true, a larger firm, you might get more hats under one umbrella.
But you don't develop a relationship with any one person, and you have lots of travel costs, especially if they're from Southern California.
You've certainly got to
We're paying for them to fly up here. They're not available for an impromptu meeting.
You need to look at all that really hard, and they need to have a physical presence here. I would very much recommend that you insist on that. They have to be at town hall a certain amount of time and available to speak one-on-one.
Yeah.
Well, and they have to be within a 100-mile radius, maybe, you know, too. I mean,
Yeah, there's
they're
attorneys
firm.
in
If we go with the
Sacramento,
firm,
yeah.
you know, I mean, I think we should,
Yeah.
my suggestion is going to be that absolutely check with the League of Cities because they have a tremendous amount of resources, and then listen to anything that Dwight or Mark can feed you to, and start there, and then keep us.
And maybe a hybrid model would be something similar to what Mark's firm's doing right now is that you have a local presence that maybe the firm kind of employs that individual, and then you have that firm with that local presence on there. So I think we can try to work something out. I think that's why I wanted to get the direction that I was looking for. I know that there is Sacramento firms that do this work and are very reputable and are, do a good job on this. So that could be something where gives you that almost local presence in a way. I know it's not local for you. You want them in Paradise. But we can work that out to kind of see what we get, and we'll start the process. I know Mark's going to help me on this, so we'll start the process. And knowing that our timeline is not that far away, expect us to kind of move this quickly. We're going to need council, to be part of this, and so we'll be looking for your time to help us get this through. So I think we're good. I think we can move forward. Yep, perfect. Thank you.